This here is the Nissan TD42. This is actually a silver top. It's out of a GQ Patrol. It has 440,000 Ks on it. And today I'm going to be doing a little bit of work so I can get this ready to put it back into the GQ. If you don't know about these motors, they are a straight 6 diesel. This is actually a naturally aspirated one. Later on in the GUs, they did get to a factory turbo, and then they did factory turbo intercooled. There is quite a big difference between a turbo motor and a non-turbo motor. First of all, there's no way to run a turbo. There's no drain into the sump. There's no oil pressure line yet. We will have to make that. Turbo ones are definitely a lot stronger, but that doesn't mean that we can't slap a snail on this thing and crank the boost up a little bit. They seem to like around the 15 to 20 pounder boost. That's kind of tapping it out, which we will be heading towards that sort of figure. But yeah, for 440,000 Ks, this thing seems to be pretty healthy, but there is still a few things that we're gonna do just to tidy it up while it is out of the car.
Proudly supported by Superior Engineering, Diesel Conversions Australia, and in part by.
So this motor is pretty crusty. You can see there's some old parts on it. Definitely needs a good cleanup and a good paint, but she's a good old girl with 440,000 Ks on it. So we are just gonna give it a bit of a refreshing while it's on the engine stand. It just needs a good tidy up and all of the parts taken off. I think we're gonna give it a paint job. Over on the bench here, I have the new exhaust manifold with the turbo flange, ready to take that spoolie boy. I've also got the inlet manifold from Adventure Corp. These are both from Adventure Corp. Now this is actually a weld-on one, so I am gonna have to take this inlet manifold off and cut it. Now I can't weld aluminium, so we'll have to get that welded somewhere, but as long as we can get it cut, it's gonna save a lot of labor later on. Then I've also got a few seals here and there, Tappet cover gaskets, rear main, all that sort of stuff that's just good to freshen up while you've got an engine on the stand. I've also already done the tappets while it was in the car, but I do kind of want to take the tappet cover off and check those tappet clearances because it still was a little bit rattly. I think maybe there is like a little worn groove underneath where the rocker arm seats on the valve, and I want to check that while it's out of the car because it is a pain in the bum to go into the engine bay and check that. This thing has 440,000 kilometers of crust on this motor, so she needs a good clean, she needs a good paint job. Then we can get it ready so that when we've got the clutch, we can just bolt it on and get it slapped into Ron Burgundy. Right, that's the TD all stripped. Everything is off that. I don't want to get painted, so I want to get this outside, get it degreased, get it rinsed off so we can then start painting. I've taped up the injector lines as well as all the fuel hoses and all the injectors. Basically every hole is taped up so no water can get in as I'm washing it. As for the injector lines, I'm actually going to try and polish these up. You can see I've kind of started on that section there so we can run these chrome. I might also have to clear coat those. The rest of the motor will just go black except for the tappet cover, but I'm going to leave that on just to protect the motor, and I don't really care if I get overspray on it because I'm repainting it anyway. So everything is right to go. I'm going to get this outside and start degreasing it down, then we can get some paint on it. I'm filming this just in case something goes wrong because these are freaking heavy motors. I hope it doesn't fall off. I actually like chocking the front of this motor up just to take some of that weight off the engine stand. They can fall off these things. Right, I'm going to give it a nice thick coat of degreaser, then hit it with the wire brush in some spots, and then we'll just pressure clean it off. All right, that motor is all done. It's out there drying, and while I'm waiting on that to dry, I'm going to start cleaning these up. Now I've got these little sanding pads with like Scotch-Brite things that go into a drill. So I'm just gonna go around and whiz these up onto there. Kind of get the result like that. So nice and polished as opposed to pretty ratty. Right, I'm not having much luck. It's not coming up the way I wanted to. So I think I'm going to change my mind and just get these painted in black. I think they'll look fine black. Ideally, I'd be replacing these, but genuine ones are about $500 for the set. So I think we can paint these for now and get away with it. I don't know if you guys can see, but they're all kind of pitted and scratched. And for me to get them back to a factory looking item is going to take way too long. So I'm just going to get these sanded back real quick, and then I'm going to chuck some black over the top. The motor is now dry as well, because it did just take half an hour just to do that. So I'll get these quickly sanded up, then we'll start getting the paint out. We'll do the motor, do the injector lines. We'll have it all nice and black. Right, I've got the injector lines all sanded back, and they are back on the motor. I'm now ready to finally get some paint on this thing. Now the paint I'm using is an engine enamel, which is good for high heat. So I'm just going to go ahead and coat the whole thing just in a nice light coat. Then I'll do a heavier coat for the second run. I am painting the alternator, the power steer pump. Basically everything on this is just getting blacked out, and it'll look good. You'll have to trust me, but let's get painting. Now I'm going to be moving on to the inlet manifold. This is the old style one, and you can see here the suction port is on the top there. Now the main reason that you'd want to be fitting one of these up is because the suction port is now moved to the side. So when we turbo it, we are going to be running a intercooler and a front mount at that. So this will be much easier to run the pipework to the front mount intercooler, as well as much better airflow through this housing here. But yeah, this one is absolutely filthy inside. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is caked in there with soot. Basically, I'm going to be following this line right through with the grinder. I'm going to cut the top off, and then this one here gets welded on that way, but on top of it. So we need to get that pretty well perfect, because it does need to be TIG welded because it is AC. And I do have an AC TIG, but I just can't AC TIG. So I do need to get someone to do it for me. These are from Adventure Corp. You can see the logo there. So if you guys want to check them out, I'll have a link in the description below. All right, that is now cut, and I've just gone ahead, cleaned it all out, degreased it, wire wheeled the inside, because when you TIG weld something, it has to be very clean. It's probably still not clean enough, believe it or not. But as you can see, we get the Adventure Corp top, and it sits on like that. And now that brings that inlet out the side there. Now Ruben from Rube's Modifications is going to be helping me out with this, which is awesome. So cheers, Ruben. And he's actually got a mill at his house, so he should be able to get this perfectly square for this to sit on, and then he can TIG weld it and make it nice and neat. So I brought the motor back inside. Everything's all dry. It looks really good, apart from this Tappet cover, which is my next plan of attack. I'm going to take this off and try and get it painted today in the same color that Ron Burgundy is painted in, so everything is matching. These injector lines turned out really nice. I am so glad that I didn't spend the rest of the day polishing those because they look friggin' awesome black. So yeah, let's get this cover off so I can take it out and get it painted. While I'm at it, I want to check some of my valve clearances because I still had a little bit of a tappety noise. Now, instead of checking every single one manually, what my suspicion is that these rocker arms here actually have a little hole under there where it seats on top of the valve, meaning that you can adjust this as many times as you want, but your feeler gauge is only touching the proud part and you'll never get the adjustment right. I might just find the loosest one and then just check that, which I think is this one here. It seems to be the loosest. I did set them to 0.30 and yeah, that's kind of slide in there. I mean, it's not loose, but I'm actually just going to pull this rocker arm off and check that. And if it's not that, I'll just put it all back on and forget that we ever did anything. I thought I'd be able to get the push rod out of the way and move this rocker arm right back, but I can only get it to there. So I'm going to have to quickly get in there with the torch and have a look and see if I can just see up there any worn grooves or anything like that. It is definitely worn. Just get a pick and see if I can feel that. Yeah, it's definitely worn out. There's a lip. It's not very big, but it's enough to throw the valve adjustment out, enough to make it very tappety, which is what it's doing. And that's not to say that that isn't the worst one too. All of these could be bad. Okay, there is 110% a mark under that. I've actually set that to 2.0 now, and you can see it's still rocking just as much as that one. And it should be way tighter. So that means that there's definitely a groove in it. So I'll probably have to change the whole rocker assembly with a new one eventually. It's not going to matter too much for now. It just means we're losing a little bit of performance. I'd love to go and check every single one of them, or even pull the rocker arm assembly off and just check them all individually, but it's just going to take too much time at the moment. I don't have a new one to put in, so we're just going to move on to painting the Tappet cover so we can keep moving on with the motor. Now, I have already painted this Tappet cover, but it was just with a rattle can, so this time I'm going to paint it with proper paint, 2K, the same color that we painted Ron Burgundy in. So I'll give it a light scuff up and get it in paint. It is now the next day, and as you can see, the Tappet cover is painted and it looks friggin' awesome. Now, this is proper 2K paint. Like I said, it is the same color as Ron Burgundy, so I think this is gonna look really nice on there. Now, I still need to do the gasket underneath, and then I've got some new bolts. I've actually had these for a very, very long time. This packet of bolts goes back to probably about 2010. When I had my JDM cars, these were going to go on the Tappet cover, but I never got around to it. They may look a little bit ricer, but they're going on the TD. I've just taken the exhaust manifold out the front, given that a coat of black in the same stuff that we painted the motor in, just because I think that it's going to look a lot better black, so I decided to paint it. I should probably clean that out first. There is a lot of sanding stuff in there, so kind of forgot about that. I'm going to go degrease this and hose it out, and I'll be back. I'll fit the gasket up. On this inner baffle, there's some tabs that need to be folded up in order to fit the seal in, and then when the seal's in, you fold the tabs back over, and that's what holds the gasket in place. These tabs only need a little hammer in till it's tight, and then you just tap down on the rubber, make sure she's down. All done. Alright, Tappet cover going on. God, that is so friggin' nice. So replacing this idler pulley because this one's a little bit worn. These are very cheap, so cheap insurance, get it changed out. I still got to clean up all the faces and put the gaskets on, but just want to see how this is looking in today's episode. That would be nice to just see it all together. Freshly painted exhaust manifold. Oh man, this thing is looking sick. Holy crap, guys. That looks absolutely killer. I'm very happy about painting that exhaust manifold, and I just really hope that paint holds up. It says it's good to up to 500 degrees, so I think it'll be right, although TDs do get pretty hot, so I'm not sure about that. But holy, what a transformation. That is the Marketplace rebuild and a half. For sale, freshly rebuilt TD42. There's absolutely no need to go inside and have a look, because as you can see, it's freshly painted. My uncle's dad's friend's cousin's sister is a mechanic and he rebuilt it. There's no receipts, but you just have to trust me because obviously we've painted it. Now, I am going to be getting this welded most likely through the week. I'll probably try and film that too. We'll go around to Ruben's and check out his place and get this all welded up. And then it is pretty much waiting on the turbo and the clutch. So once they're in, I can get it all bolted on and then we can get it into the car. I still got a heap of wiring and stuff to do in the engine bay, but once the motor's in, we can start piecing together all the little things like the brakes and the wiring and all that fun jazz that goes on in an engine bay. Now, the really good thing about this Adventure Corp manifold is that they've moved the turbo forward. Now, when you go to a normal manifold, the turbo flange is roughly about here, and then your firewall is right here. So your dump pipe, especially if it's 4-inch or 3-inch, gets really friggin' close to the firewall. So Adventure Corp have moved that flange to number 3 cylinder right on that middle runner. So everything is nice and balanced and it moves it forward from that firewall. So we're going to have really good dump pipe clearance. And then obviously with this intake manifold, getting this out the side here makes it a lot easier to run our front mount intercooler, because the pipe work will kind of come down and down to the front, our intercooler across the front of the car, and then back up to the turbo. So we'll be able to run this nice and clean. But Jesus, have a look at it. It's gone from 0 to hero in bloody minutes. Well, it was minutes for you guys. It was bloody 2 days for me. But yeah, she be looking good. Now, that is actually all I have time for in today's episode. We obviously didn't get a whole heap of stuff done, but at least we're at a point now where we can start getting everything welded up, get the turbo in, get the clutch in. We can start getting it all put together and get it back in the car. I'm really hoping that within probably, I don't know, say a month, we'll have this thing back on the road driving. Actually, that's probably pushing it. Let's give it 2 months until this thing's back on the road, then we can start driving it and take it out on a few adventures. Speaking of taking it out, I'm also thinking about making my own custom tube bull bar and then wrapping some bar work around this thing in the form of brush bars, I meant to say, and putting some rear scrubbies on it as well, so we can take this out on some really hard tracks. So basically what I'm saying is, once again, the build is changing because I have no idea what I'm doing, even next week. Let me know what you think about this motor here, and if you're keen to see all the turbo setup and whatnot that we are going with. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you then.